Have you ever stopped in the middle of a quiet moment, looked deeply into the life you have built, and suddenly wondered who you actually built it for? What if the exhaustion you feel at the end of the day is not from the work you did, but from the invisible audience you spent all day trying to impress? Here is a truth that is deeply painful, yet profoundly liberating to admit. Most of us spend a vast portion of our lives living for eyes that are not our own. We mold our personalities, polish our achievements, and edit our true feelings, all to perform for a room full of people who are truthfully too busy worrying about their own performances to ever truly see ours. We crave validation. We fear judgment. We contort our authentic selves into shapes we believe the world will applaud, and it is entirely exhausting. Deep down, you know this feeling. It is the hollow ache that follows a conversation where you smiled and agreed with something you did not believe, just to keep the peace. It is the quiet anxiety of curating your life so it looks successful from the outside, while feeling completely empty and disconnected on the inside. It is the heavy, sinking realization that you have been trading your most precious, unrecoverable asset, your time, for the fleeting, fragile approval of others. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our daily suffering comes from attachment, and one of the heaviest, most punishing attachments we carry is the attachment to our own image. We construct a rigid idea of who we should be to the world: the successful one, the perfect friend, the one who never fails, who never disappoints, who is effortlessly admired by everyone. We build this false self, this ego, and then we spend every waking moment defending it. We become exhausted prisoners of a self that does not genuinely exist. Imagine spending years carrying a massive, heavily framed mirror strapped to your back. Everywhere you go, you are weighed down by it. Your shoulders ache, your breath is short. You cannot look up at the clouds drifting across the sky or watch the river flowing quietly beside you, because you must constantly angle your body so that the people you pass can be impressed by the shine of the glass. You want them to look at you and admire what they see, but all the while you are suffering, crushed under the immense weight of the display. This is what it means to live for the approval of others. Think about your own life. Think about the choices you have made out of fear of what others might say, the paths you forced yourself to walk, the words you swallowed. How much of your daily anxiety is simply the fear of losing the approval of an imagined crowd? Ask yourself this: who are you when absolutely no one is watching? When the door is locked and the stage is empty and the applause has faded into silence, what is left of your spirit? Eventually, the weight of the mirror becomes too much to bear. You reach a point where the spiritual exhaustion completely outweighs the desire to be praised. And when this happens, a very specific kind of sorrow sets in. You look back at the years you spent trying to mold yourself into something impressive, and you feel the sharp, undeniable sting of regret. You realize you have spent the irreplaceable days of your life performing a play no one truly cared about. Pause. Breathe. Let that sink in. This regret is heavy. It can feel like a profound and quiet loss. But this pain is not a punishment. It is a fracture in the illusion. The sorrow you feel over wasted time is actually the very first moment of true freedom, because you cannot let go of a heavy burden until you finally admit how much it hurts to carry it. But realizing you have wasted time performing for others is only the beginning. The mind, accustomed to fear, will try to use this regret against you, and this is where the next truth begins. 2. The awakening to wasted time. What happens when the applause finally stops and you are left alone with the silence of your own life? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you finally stop trying to impress the world, the first emotion you feel is rarely peace. Usually, It is grief, a deep, quiet, and overwhelming grief for the time you have lost. You look back at the months, the years, perhaps even the decades you spent twisting your spirit into knots to please people who never truly knew you. You see the energy you poured into projecting success, maintaining an image, and hiding your authentic struggles. And you realize, with a heavy heart, that you can never get that time back. This awakening is deeply painful. It feels like waking up from a long, confusing dream, only to find that the sun is already setting. You may feel a surge of anger at yourself. You may replay old conversations, past decisions, and forced smiles, feeling a profound sense of self-betrayal. You wonder how much of your life was genuinely yours, and how much was simply a performance dictated by the expectations of others. In Buddhist thought, this realization is intimately connected to the truth of impermanence. Everything is in constant motion. Nothing stays. We suffer because we try to build permanent, solid identities in a world that is inherently flowing and changing. The false self you tried so hard to protect, the image you wanted everyone to admire, was never real to begin with. It was an illusion, an exhausting mirage. Buddhism reminds us that recognizing an illusion is not a tragedy. It is the necessary, sometimes painful, breaking of a spell. Imagine a person standing on a beautiful, quiet beach. Instead of feeling the warmth of the sun or listening to the soothing rhythm of the waves, they spend the entire day frantically building an elaborate sandcastle. They carve perfect towers and smooth the walls, constantly looking over their shoulder to see if anyone walking by is impressed by their creation. They ignore their own thirst. They ignore the beauty of the vast ocean behind them. They are entirely consumed by the need to be admired. Then, evening comes. The tide rises. The dark water washes over the shore, dissolving the perfect towers back into the earth. The castle is gone in an instant, and the person is left standing in the cold, realizing they spent their entire day at the beach, but never once felt the water. This is what we do when we spend our lives seeking validation. We build fragile towers of status, perfect social media profiles, and curated relationships. We exhaust ourselves trying to prove our worth to co-workers, distant family members, or even strangers. And in the process, we entirely miss the raw, beautiful experience of simply being alive. Think about your own life. How many days have you spent meticulously building castles in the sand, hoping someone would stop and clap? What parts of your true self have you neglected because you were too busy managing how others perceive you? Pause, breathe, observe the heavy feeling of regret without letting it consume you. It is okay to mourn the time you spent performing. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You must forgive yourself for trying to survive in a world that taught you to seek approval. You did not know any better at the time. You were doing the best you could with the awareness you had. But do not let the grief of wasted time turn into a prison of its own. Let the sandcastle wash away. The ocean is still there. Because acknowledging the time you have lost brings you face to face with the ultimate, undeniable truth of our existence, the reality of how fragile our time truly is. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. When mortality whispers. What if the quiet fear of running out of time is actually the deepest invitation to finally start living? When the illusion of the audience fades, a profound stillness replaces it. But in that stillness, a new, sharper reality emerges. You begin to feel the undeniable passage of time. Having mourned the years you spent trying to impress others, you suddenly realize how few years you might have left. You notice the subtle changes in your reflection. You feel the changing of the seasons not just in the air, but in your bones. The abstract concept of mortality is no longer a distant thought for someone else. It is a whisper directly in your ear. For many, this whisper is terrifying. We are taught to hide from aging, to ignore endings, and to pretend that our time is infinite. When we suddenly realize it is not, a deep existential ache can take hold. You may look at your life and worry that it is too late. You may feel a desperate, heavy sadness that you gave the brightest years of your energy to the expectations of people who never truly cared. Buddhist wisdom teaches a very different relationship with mortality. In many Buddhist traditions, meditating on the impermanence of life is not a morbid practice. It is the ultimate tool for awakening, understanding impermanence, truly accepting that this life has an expiration date, strips away the trivial. It burns away the false desires and the desperate need for external validation. When you deeply realize that your time is finite, the heavy burden of needing to be admired suddenly feels completely ridiculous. Death is the great equalizer, and it makes the opinions of the crowd entirely powerless. Imagine a single glowing candle sitting in a quiet room. For hours, you have been obsessing over the candle. You polished its brass holder. You moved it to different tables, trying to find the perfect angle so that anyone walking past the window would stop and admire how beautifully it was displayed. You spent all your energy managing how the candle looked from the outside. Then, you suddenly notice the wax. It has melted down to the very base. The flame is getting lower. In that moment, does the polish on the brass holder matter? Does the opinion of the person walking past the window matter? No. All that matters is the simple, undeniable miracle of the light. All that matters is the warmth it casts in the quiet room while it is still burning. This is the profound shift that mortality brings. It takes your focus away from the brass holder of your ego and returns it to the raw flame of your existence. When you realize your time is limited, the pressure to maintain a perfect image loses its grip. The desire to argue with people who misunderstand you simply evaporates. The anxiety of feeling behind in life, compared to the fabricated timelines of others, fades into silence. Ask yourself, if you knew how much wax was left on your candle, would you spend another minute worrying about who is looking at the holder? What parts of your life are you still polishing for the window? Pause, breathe, place your hand over your chest. Feel the steady, unbothered rhythm of your heartbeat. It is still beating. You are still here. Let the reality of time slipping away. Become an anchor to the present moment rather than a weight on your shoulders. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity, but the ego is incredibly clever. When it realizes it cannot deny mortality, it often tries to control it. The realization of lost time can easily transform into a frantic race to catch up, and this is where the next truth begins. 4. The trap of panic and rushing. What if the frantic rush to make up for lost time is just another way of missing your life? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you first realize how much time you spent living for the approval of others, and you suddenly feel the quiet reality of your own mortality, the pendulum often swings violently to the other extreme. You panic. A sudden, desperate urge takes over to make every remaining second profound, productive, and meaningful. We shift entirely from a culture of survival, where we simply tried to survive the judgments of the crowd, to a relentless culture of optimization. We start treating our own lives like a mathematical equation to be solved. We construct a heavy, invisible architecture of fear around our biological mortality, believing that if we just move fast enough, experience enough, or achieve enough, we can somehow outsmart the clock. We try to force a multi-stage life of endless milestones to prove to ourselves that we are finally, truly living. But this rushing is entirely exhausting. It is just another heavy burden. Buddhist wisdom teaches that this frantic need to maximize our time is simply another form of attachment. We have let go of our attachment to the opinions of others, but we have replaced it with an attachment to an idealized future. We grip tightly to the illusion that peace is a destination we must sprint to reach, but the future does not exist. Buddhism reminds us that when we rush out of a fear of mortality, we are not living more deeply. We are simply speeding past the only place where life actually happens, the present moment. Imagine a small boat navigating a wide, quiet river. For the first half of the journey, the person in the boat stayed anchored close to the shore, spending all their energy waving to the people on the banks, hoping to be seen and admired. Then, they suddenly realize the river is flowing toward the ocean, and their time on the water is not infinite. In a panic, they pull up the anchor. They grab the oars and begin to row frantically. They splash, they sweat, and they stare intensely at the horizon, terrified they will not reach the end with enough stories to tell. But in their desperate, fearful rowing, they never once look down at the sparkling water. They never feel the gentle warmth of the sun on their skin or listen to the quiet song of the wind. They turned a beautiful journey into a terrifying, breathless race. This is what we do when we try to hyper-optimize our healing, our goals, and our remaining years. We feel so behind in life that we try to force our own blooming. We treat every quiet moment as a wasted opportunity. Think about your own life. How much of your current exhaustion comes from the desperate need to catch up? Are you trying to optimize your days out of joy or out of a quiet, lingering panic? What are you afraid will happen if you simply put down the oars and let the river carry you for a moment? Pause. Breathe. Stop trying to force the current. Observe the fear of running out of time without following it. You do not have to turn your mortality into an emergency. You do not need to trade the exhaustion of people-pleasing for the exhaustion of constant, frantic doing. Let the timeline go, because true peace is not found by moving faster to outrun the end. It is found by finally standing still enough to experience the now. But how do we look at our finite time without trying to control it? And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The Buddhist shift from fear to tenderness. What if the awareness of an ending was not meant to make you afraid, but to make you gentle? Here is a truth that is difficult to hold. When we first confront the reality of our finite time, our instinct is often to harden. We become rigid. We look at the people around us, the ones who misunderstand us, the ones who drain our energy, the ones who ignore us, and we feel a sudden, sharp impatience. We think, I do not have time for this. We cut ties abruptly. We build thick, emotional walls. We use our mortality as a shield, believing that because time is short, we must aggressively protect every second from being wasted. But this hardening is just another form of fear. It is the ego trying to build a fortress out of panic. In Buddhist thought, the deep realization of impermanence is not meant to make you sharp. It is meant to make you incredibly soft. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that suffering softens when we meet it with compassion. When you truly understand that everything is temporary, not just your life, but the lives of everyone you meet, your attention begins to shift. You no longer see people as obstacles to your peace or threats to your time. You see them as fragile, passing visitors in a shared, fleeting world. Buddhism reminds us that impermanence is the very foundation of tenderness. If things lasted forever, we would never need to cherish them. Imagine walking through a dense, quiet forest and finding a beautiful, intricate spider web covered in morning dew. The sunlight catches it perfectly. It is a masterpiece. But you also know that the slightest gust of wind or the heat of the afternoon sun will soon dissolve it completely. Because you know it is temporary, you do not feel the need to possess it. You do not try to take it home, or angrily demand that the wind stop blowing. And you certainly do not grab it, because you know a clenched fist would only destroy its beauty. Instead, you simply stand perfectly still. You lower your breathing. You let your eyes soften, and you give the web your complete, tender attention while it is still there. This is what the awareness of mortality should do to your life. When you realize time is slipping away, you do not need to grip your relationships tighter or aggressively demand perfection from the people around you. Instead, the arguments that used to ruin your day suddenly feel remarkably small. The co-worker who criticizes you, the family conflict that has dragged on for years, the pressure to succeed, it all loses its sharp edges. You look at the people you love, knowing they will not always be here, and your frustration dissolves into a profound, quiet grace. Think about your own life. When you feel frustrated by a conversation or slighted by a friend, are you reacting as if you both have infinite time to be angry? What would happen if you let the reality of mortality soften your gaze rather than harden your boundaries? Pause, breathe, let the edges of your attention soften. You do not have to fight the passing of time. Let the feeling of urgency gently melt into a feeling of deep presence. Do your part, then release the need for everyone and everything to be perfect, because tenderness is the only true remedy for a fragile world. But to deeply live with this tenderness, you must stop spending your energy on things that do not matter. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Reclaiming your attention. What if the most precious thing you own is not your time, but your attention? Here is a truth that is easy to forget in a noisy world. When you finally stop trying to impress people, you realize you have a vast amount of mental energy left over. But nature abhors a vacuum. If you do not consciously choose where to place this newfound focus, the mind will quickly find something else to cling to. You may stop performing for a crowd, but you might start obsessing over meaningless arguments, mindlessly watching the curated lives of strangers, or replaying old conversations in your head. The exhaustion remains, only the source has changed. In Buddhist thought, mindfulness is not simply about sitting quietly with your eyes closed. It is the fierce, gentle practice of guarding your attention. The mind is often compared to a restless animal, easily spooked and constantly wandering off into the underbrush. When we let our attention drift endlessly into anger, comparison, or shallow distractions, we are giving away the very substance of our lives. Buddhism reminds us that you cannot always control what happens around you, but you possess the profound power to choose where you place your gaze. Imagine a deep, still lake hidden in a quiet mountain valley. When the water is completely calm, it perfectly reflects the silver light of the moon. It is undisturbed. It is whole. But imagine standing on the shore and endlessly throwing heavy stones into the water. Every stone is a worry about what someone thinks. Every stone is a regret. Every stone is an hour spent looking at someone else's life and feeling inadequate. The water violently churns. The mud from the bottom rises. The beautiful reflection of the moon shatters into 1,000 broken, frantic pieces. If you want to see the moon again, you do not jump into the water and try to forcefully hold the ripples still with your hands. You simply stop throwing the stones. This is what it means to reclaim your attention. It is the conscious decision to stop throwing the heavy stones of meaningless distraction into the quiet lake of your mind. Think about how this looks in your everyday life. It means intentionally looking away from the people who constantly drain your energy. It means refusing to reopen a door that you have already closed. It means stepping away from the endless noise of comparison that tells you your life is not beautiful enough. Reclaiming your attention is recognizing that every time you focus on something that does not serve your deepest peace, you are paying for it with moments of your life you will never, ever get back. Ask yourself this: where did your attention go today? How much of it was spent on things that will not matter a month from now? What would happen if you gathered all that scattered, frantic energy and placed it gently on the present moment? Pause. Breathe. Observe where your mind wants to wander. When you catch yourself drifting back into old habits of worrying or trying to fix what cannot be fixed, do not be angry with yourself. Gently, calmly, bring your focus back. Bring it back to your breath. Bring it back to the quiet space you are sitting in. Bring it back to the simple feeling of being alive. Because your life is not defined solely by how many years you live. It is defined by what you choose to pay attention to while you are here. But to fully inhabit this reclaimed space, you must first make peace with the past. You must learn to forgive the version of yourself that spent so much time looking in the wrong direction. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Forgiving the years you spent performing. What if the hardest person to forgive for the time you have lost is simply yourself? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you finally wake up and realize how much time you spent living for others, it is easy to become your own harshest judge. You look back at the relationships you stayed in too long, the boundaries you failed to set, and the quiet moments you sacrificed just to keep the peace. You feel a heavy, burning shame. You think to yourself, I should have known better. I should have woken up sooner. You begin to hold a deep resentment toward the past version of yourself who was so desperately seeking validation. But carrying this anger is just another heavy burden. It keeps you chained to the very past you are trying to escape. In Buddhist thought, compassion is central to awakening. But one of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that compassion must first be turned inward. We cannot find true peace if we are constantly at war with our own history. Buddhism reminds us that the self is not a fixed, rigid thing. It is a constantly evolving process. The version of you that spent years trying to impress people was not foolish. They were simply seeking love, safety, and belonging in the only way they knew how. They were surviving. Imagine a small seed buried deep beneath thick, heavy soil. For a very long time, it struggles in absolute darkness. It twists, it bends, and it pushes against jagged rocks, desperately trying to find its way upward. To an observer, it might look like wasted effort, just wandering blindly in the dark. But every difficult twist and turn was secretly building the strength the stem needed to finally break the surface of the earth. When the flower finally blooms in the warm sunlight, it does not look down at the dirt and resent the seed for spending so much time in the darkness. It understands that the struggle in the dark was entirely necessary for the bloom. This is how you must look at your own past. You spent years twisting in the dark. You forced yourself into spaces where you did not fit, carrying the heavy expectations of family, society, and peers. You may feel like those years were wasted, but they were not. That painful struggle taught you exactly what you no longer want. It built the immense spiritual strength required for you to finally break through the surface and seek true peace. Think about your own life. Are you still punishing a past version of yourself who was simply trying to navigate a confusing world? Are you letting the shame of yesterday steal the quiet beauty of today? What if, instead of anger, you offered that past self a profound sense of grace? Pause. Breathe. Place your hand over your heart. Speak silently to the version of you that was so afraid of being unloved. Tell them it is okay. Tell them the performance is over. You do not need to carry the guilt of the years it took to learn the lesson. Let the feeling of self-directed anger rise. Observe it, and gently let it pass without following it backward into the past. Because true peace is not found by erasing your history. It is found by realizing that your past no longer dictates your worth. But once you let go of the need to be seen, and you forgive yourself for the time it took, something beautifully unexpected happens. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. The deep peace of being unnoticed. What if the very thing you used to fear being ignored is actually the quietest and most profound form of freedom? Here is a truth that goes against everything the modern world teaches us. For most of our lives, we equate visibility with value. We are conditioned to believe that if we are not seen, recognized, or celebrated, we somehow cease to exist. We fear being left out of the conversation. We fear walking into a room and remaining completely unacknowledged. We measure our worth by how loudly people speak our names, by the invitations we receive, and by the constant reassurance that we matter. We exhaust ourselves maintaining a presence, over-functioning in relationships, and loudly declaring our achievements just to ensure we are not forgotten. The ego terrifies us with the thought of irrelevance. But Buddhist wisdom teaches a radically different truth. The desperate desire to be constantly seen is a heavy chain. It binds your internal worth to the fleeting, unstable attention of others. In Buddhist thought, letting go of the ego's need for an audience is a profound spiritual threshold. Non-attachment to recognition is not a state of being invisible. It is a state of being beautifully untethered. When you no longer need the world to look at you, you finally have the space to look deeply at the world. You step off the exhausting stage and take a seat in the quiet, peaceful audience of your own life. Imagine a towering, ancient tree standing deep within a vast, silent forest. For centuries, it has grown tall and strong. Its roots run deep into the dark earth. Its leaves turn a brilliant, fiery gold in the autumn, and it provides gentle shade for the quiet creatures of the woods. But no human has ever walked past it. No one has ever stood beneath its branches and praised its beauty. Does the tree suffer because it is not applauded? Does it refuse to bloom or withhold its golden leaves because there is no audience to admire it? No, it simply exists. It grows, it breathes, and it participates in the quiet rhythm of the earth, perfectly complete in its own silent existence. This is the profound freedom of being unnoticed in modern life. It is the deep exhale that comes when you stop posting every moment of your day just to prove you are living. When you stop craving the credit for every good thing you do at work. When you comfortably let people misunderstand you without feeling the frantic, burning need to correct them. You realize that your life does not require a witness to be beautiful. You can eat a quiet meal, walk in the crisp morning air, and hold space for your own joy without needing to extract validation from a crowd. Think about your own life. How much of your daily anxiety comes from the fear of slipping into the background? What if you did not have to prove your existence, your success, or your healing to anyone today? What if you could just be? Pause, breathe, feel the quiet power of simply standing here. Let the world rush by without you for a moment. You do not need to announce your presence. You do not have to perform. Observe the ego's desire to be recognized and gently let it go. Because the moment you stop needing the world to see you is the exact moment you finally begin to see yourself. But there is one final step on this journey. Once the noise fades, the need to impress vanishes, and the reality of your finite time makes your attention gentle. How do you walk into whatever days you have left? And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Walking softly into the present. What if the quietness of your life right now is not a sign that you have fallen behind, but the beautiful proof that you have finally arrived? In the beginning, we talked about the exhausting weight of carrying a massive mirror on your back. You spent years constantly adjusting your posture, carefully curating your existence so the world could admire your reflection. You poured your precious, finite energy into an endless performance for an audience that was never truly watching. And when the illusion finally broke, the realization of the time you had lost was deeply painful. The sudden, whispering awareness of your own mortality felt terrifying. It felt like a heavy door closing on the life you thought you were supposed to have. But look closely at what happened when you finally stopped running. You did not let the fear of a ticking clock harden your heart. You did not let the panic turn your remaining days into a frantic race to catch up. Instead, you let the absolute fragility of time make you tender. You gently set the heavy mirror down. You forgave the past version of yourself who carried it for so long. You stopped throwing stones into the quiet lake of your mind, and you stepped into the profound, peaceful freedom of simply existing, completely unbothered by who is noticing. This is the ultimate promise of Buddhist wisdom. True non-attachment is not about abandoning the world or turning away from joy. It is about inhabiting your life so completely that you no longer need to possess it, control it, or put it on display. It is the deep, spiritual trust that you are inherently worthy of peace, exactly as you are, in this exact, unfolding moment. Imagine walking out of a crowded, noisy theater where you have been standing on a brightly lit stage for years. You step through the heavy wooden doors and walk out into a quiet, cool evening. There is no audience. There is no script. There are only the stars scattered across the vast, dark sky and the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breathing. You do not need to speak. You do not need to bow. You simply have to be there, feeling the quiet air on your skin, entirely complete in the beautiful silence. This is where you are now. You have taken your life back from the crowd. Think about the days ahead of you. They are yours. They are not a stage. They are not a race. They are simply a gentle unfolding of moments, waiting for your tender, unhurried attention. Pause. Breathe. Let the heavy weight of expectations finally slide off your shoulders. You do not have to chase what is already leaving, and you do not have to force what is not yet ready to bloom. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. Trust the quietness. Trust the stillness. The time you spent performing is over, and the time you have left is finally your own. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.